My thesis focuses on how multiple personalities that coexist in the human soul have been an interesting issue for many scholars and writers of the world literature in every period, and my aim is to demonstrate that the dominant personality is always the one that the individual chooses to fit. The word doppelganger, that gives the name to my thesis, comes from the union of the two German words doppel, double, and gehen, to go, and it can be translated as double wayfarer. In psychology, the doppelganger is connected with the Freudian concept of das Unheimlich, that is the sense of restlessness that you prove is something that is familiar and alien at the same time, such as an alter ego. The middle-class narrow-minded conception that promoted the idea that individuals should have been pure and not corrupted by impulses and instincts was demolished by Freud's progressive theories, who believed in the coexistence of multiple personalities in the human soul. Various writers used literature to denounce middle-class hypocrisy. Dostoevsky was undoubtedly one of the most interested authors to internal psychological dynamics of the human mind. In his novels, he often investigates the relationship between man, society, religion, and history. In The Double, in particular, the writer wants to emphasize the individual's alienation and how his conscience is sometimes even more ruthless of the society. The protagonist of the novel has a very difficult relationship with otherness. Dostoevsky explored the oppressive environment in St. Petersburg bureaucracy. The continuous repetition of the phrase "so it seemed" to Mr. Goliathkin and the delusions of persecution plaguing the protagonist are the first real indication of the hallucinatory character of the story. The protagonist meets a figure that looks impressively like him, which is called like him, and has his own memories and his own past. The double, however, is above all the incarnation of all that he wants to be, but in fact is not. Open-minded, funny, ironic and sarcastic in an almost cruel way, as opposed to its always feel inadequate in a sort of rival harmony. The story is focused on obsessive and repetitive thoughts, and the double embodies all that the protagonist despises as the falsity of worldly rights, thus materializing all that the protagonist fails to be. In the end, the protagonist asks explanations about the presence of another person identical to him, and the characters surrounding him send him to an asylum. Only then the reader will have the certainty that the double was nothing more than a projection of his consciousness, hallucinations produced by his psychological state severely compromised. Another novel whose doppelganger has been much discussion is Macbeth, Shakespeare. In his work, Some Characters Types Met Within Psychoanalytic Work, Freud analyzed some effects of refraction between the experience of Macbeth and the one of Lady Macbeth, concluding that they are a single character split in two. Lady Macbeth will be the doppelganger of Macbeth, playing his rational part. Another writer that used the theme of the double is Robert Louis Stevenson with his famous novel The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. In this novel, a respected scientist can eliminate his negative counterpart by dividing himself into two different parts, so that he doesn't have to be responsible for the wrongdoings of his bad part. That in the novel is described not as a fault, but as an inevitable damnation of every human being. The theme of double is comprehensively analyzed in Frankenstein by Mary Shelley as well, where a scientist sins for arrogance and takes God's place, giving birth to a creature with no name and no identity, and forced, despite its goodness, to deal with the cruelty of the world in a sort of social contract that makes him appear like the monster that it actually isn't. In addition to Stevenson, Oscar Wilde is also fascinated by the multiple personalities of the human soul, and in his masterpiece, The Picture of Dorian Gray, he gives the perfect example of double as inanimate object. This novel is one more time a denounce against the middle class and its hypocrisy, hidden behind appearance, that in this case is represented by the picture. Because all these characters are victims of their dark side, they are shown as losers. Jekyll kills himself when he realizes to be irreversibly dominated by Hyde. The monster created by Frankenstein throws itself into the fire after being repudiated by its creator. And Dorian Gray stabs his portrait and is shocked to see all the signs of his vices on it. In conclusion, we all have a dark part inside us. We don't have to repress it, but we have to be aware of it and learn how to control it.